All right. Hey, everybody. Episode number nothing. This is a bonus episode of the Modern Meeting. My name is Adam. I'm a compulsive gambler in recovery. My last bet, February 8th, 2022. I have a very special guest. When all this shit went down with the NBA, he's the first person I thought of. I said, oh boy, I hope he can come on and we can talk this. Who do I got here?
I love sketchy shit like rigging games. Yeah. First person I thought of. I'm Alex, also a compulsive gambler in recovery. Uh, Last bet April 21st, 2024.
Amen. It's Alex, everybody. Alex is back, and no, it's because you're the sports betting guy.
Yeah.
You're the Georgia guy. You're sports.
Yeah.
You know sports, and it's this is kind of a full circle moment. I remember one of the first controversial conversations we had on the Modern Meeting
Mm,
was about, I wouldn't say this topic specifically, but we were talking about the operators and just like
yeah.
So yeah, so
The industry overall. Yeah.
exactly. So
Mhm.
my first question to you, we'll get into it. What were your first thoughts when you saw this come over the TV?
I mean, I wasn't super surprised. There's even, I mean, there were stories that were kind of coming out at different times over the course of the last like year plus. Terry Rozier's name. I want to start by saying too, this is all alleged. I don't want to be the things we're talking about are all alleged. I don't want to be
Exactly. Yep.
involved in a defamation case or subpoenaed in any of this, and I'm sure you
Right.
don't either. So,
Yeah.
with the rapid growth of the modern meeting, especially, who knows who listens to this? So,
Right. Right.
seriously though, this is all alleged. But there was allegations around Terry Rozier as far back as like I think it was like a year ago. He just like stopped playing last year, and
2023. 2023.
yeah, so even going back, I guess he didn't play all of last season. Is that right?
Oh, I'm not sure, but when this whole thing went down, he didn't play the
Yeah.
last
So
9
he
games.
was
Yeah.
he was shut down last season pretty early on, and what's funny is that there was actually the reason that this was able to be caught initially was because of sports betting being legalized. The irregularities in the volume on his prop bets in particular are what alerted folks at some of the bigger name operators to flag it to the NBA, and then allegedly the NBA knew this was happening to
Mm.
some extent, or at least was likely, and swept it under the rug more or less while it all played out. So there's a lot that's the NBA has had their issues, obviously well documented over the years with integrity of the game, if you will. They were kind of turning the corner from Tim Donaghy, it felt like, but this is a whole new animal. Again, not surprised as somebody who loves basketball, I guess, like kind of bummed out and disappointed.
For
I
sure.
think what's crazy is the new frontier that we reached really quickly. That's where I think I became surprised, I guess. It's not role players anymore. And even knowing about Terry Rozier, a guy who was the best player on a team, or at least a lead guard in the team, and got in a max contract, I think it's made an all-star team. Like that was still a big enough name where it was like, damn. And as a Celtics fan, I know, like scary Terry, what are you doing, man? Um,
Right. Right.
but once Chauncey Billups was involved, and once you have an active NBA head coach involved, I mean that's a level of calling integrity into question that I think that's even more damning than you can claim somebody like Tim Donaghy is a rogue agent. Was he? Probably not.
Mm.
Almost certainly not. But when an active NBA head coach is implicated in this, that's when to me that's where I did get surprised, and that's where to me this kind of turns into something far more serious than I think we maybe ever thought was possible. How
Yeah,
about you?
and
How about you?
yeah, like I also was not surprised at all. And if I'm being honest, I had 2 thoughts. First thought was, finally, like we have some mainstream news that, pulls back the curtain a little bit, and we have some proof that, like, not only is, a gambling addiction a real thing that affects everyone, but
Mm.
it's also with the whole, just with the operators and the legalization of everything. And then the second thought was, I feel bad for Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier. You know why? Because 'Cause they're fucking compulsive gamblers,
They,
right?
they they have a problem for sure. I think
Yeah.
I got a bunch of texts over the past couple days that were like, why would these guys do this for 20 grand or for 10 grand? And my instant reaction was there's two scenarios here. and it could be the answer could be that both are true, but one is that they're in deep shit essentially, and they owe what sounds like we'll keep names out of it, I guess, but they owe organized crime groups large amounts of money, and we're forced to do this. It's not about them making 20 grand. The second option is that it's not about the money at all, and they have a problem, and they just wanted action. Like,
Yeah,
and that's where I think you and I could probably relate, right? It's like, well, shit, it was never really about the money. What
totally.
the money was the vehicle for the compulsion. And
Right.
to your point, like, yeah, I don't care if you're me or you or fucking Chauncey Billups.
Yeah.
This
Like
shit's this shit's no joke, man.
how many times have you and I think it's the first thing that you said, right? How many times have we heard in the rooms or has the modern meeting audience heard me say, one of the 20 questions that I answer yes to, did you commit an illegal act to fund your gambling? Like these guys, why else would millionaire, famous basketball players and coaches, why would they risk committing an illegal act if they either didn't have to your point,
Right.
or they have a disease, the same disease that you and I have?
Can't kick it, have to have it. And it's not about money. It's about I'm the coach of the Blazers, allegedly, and he's not allegedly the coach of the Blazers, but I'm the coach of the Blazers, fact. And then allegedly I was taking part in these high stakes poker games as the shiny object to get these whales into games. Like, that's just because you needed a little something something on the side because coaching the Blazers wasn't getting it done. And
Yeah,
that he wanted Chauncey, allegedly, it sounds like,
yeah.
wanted an escape from life like you and I did. And this is unfortunately what he turned to, right? So it's a crazy different level than what we did, but it's the same disease.
Yeah, and I've been going on a rabbit hole ever since I called you a few hours ago. I said, "Let's do this," and you said yes. I said, "Okay." I went on a rabbit hole, and you know that mob guy. Shout out to Michael Frances. He's like, if you go on YouTube, you can. He's like,
This is a real mob
yeah,
guy.
he's a former member of La Cosa Nostra who now basically just does like documentaries, and so for 30 years he's worked with the leagues to help them with players with gambling. So that comes to my next point, is that who what we know about gambling, right? There's not a ton of research, but what we do know, who is the number one demographic that is prone to problem gambling? Young males, right?
Yeah.
Who are the people playing in these leagues? Young males,
Yeah.
okay?
True.
Also, there's a reason that athletes are oftentimes put in these spots, because that's a big characteristic of someone who struggles with gambling, is the competitiveness, right? Like you've talked about it in your story. Like sometimes you thought it was just like you just wanted to be right. Like that's what athletes are.
That's what it was a lot of the time. Most of the
Yeah.
time.
And
Yeah.
then the last point, there's plenty of studies that show this, is that, you know, racial and ethnic minorities, young males, they are the most prone to problem gambling. So
Yeah.
you put all that together, and these guys are this guy, Michael Frances, he talked about how back in the 80s and 90s, they would prey on athletes,
Yeah.
athletes who would be betting. Like this
So
is the other thing too.
it's almost like no shit.
Yeah, like this is the other thing too. Not only is this just the tip of the iceberg, but like this has been going on forever. People have
Right.
been betting on sports forever. I don't know if they go
Sure.
as far as betting on their own team during a game, like maybe Pete Rose did, but there are plenty of like players on the Jets and Giants who were in a ton of money to the mafia, like back in the 80s and 90s. And he talked about it. Like he did it, right?
Right.
And so
He was
what
the guy on the other side of the table. Yeah.
right, and what these guys would do, said player would be down 50,000. He just talked about this on a YouTube video today. Said guy, let's say it's a right tackle for the Jets who's down 50,000. He goes to the bookie, says, I can't pay. And he's like, well, so then the bookie goes to this guy. He's like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, let him get into you for 200,000, and he can't get out of it. And then what they do is, hey, let's say it was a running back. Hey, for the next few games, I need you to drop the ball when you take a handoff. And they did it. That's happened. If you look at the film from Terry Rozier, allegedly, in the game against the
Um,
Pelicans, I just watched it.
there's some damning
Oh,
highlights.
yeah, dude. And so
The fumble thing you just said, it makes me want to bring a Patriots player up. I'm not going to do it, so we're going to keep going. But
No,
yeah, we're
Ramondre
not.
is innocent.
Yeah, we're
Ramondre is
not going to do
innocent.
that. We're not going to do that. No, he's been holding on to the ball. He's been
Yeah.
holding on to the ball.
But
Yeah.
but so yeah, so I mean, and now all of this being said, right? The day after, you go on ESPN.com right now, that fucking story's buried. It's not even on the
Oh,
front page.
of I saw. Well, think about who's in bed with the NBA. You know, or who's the person sleeping closest to the NBA in that bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I saw a clip that was. This is a small thing, but it's also, it speaks to all the layers to this. It was a clip of whatever, Get Up or First Take, you name your ESPN show. And the bottom ticker, as they were breaking this news story, ESPN Bet is always there. And somebody was like, pretty crafty graphics guy, like making it, and all of a sudden it was just gone.
yeah, yeah,
Because, like, at a certain point, you got to decide, how are you going to tell this? How are you going to cover this story for ESPN? And can
totally.
you cover it objectively as a mainstream sports book who's in bed with the league that was allegedly covering this up? That's hard to do.
And that's the other point too, is that, you know, over the course of the last year, from when we first started talking about this till now, I've kind of come around where your original point was, where it's like, listen, this is capitalism. This is
Right.
this is something that's regulated. So I don't blame the operators for, the only thing
That
I'll say is I wish the volume of ads was lower, but like I don't blame the operators here. But if you're a sports league, right? If you're the NBA or Major League Baseball or the
yeah.
NHL or the NFL, so you want to get all the money from these sports books, but you also want to uphold the integrity of the game. It's literally not possible.
Oh, that's been kind of the what's the right word? That's been the irony of it the entire
Right.
time, right?
Yeah.
Is you want it all but want none of it at the same time.
Right.
And you can't. I mean, it's classic have your cake and eat it too. Um I just thought I couldn't help but think though. I'm just gonna be honest. Like maybe when it first broke, and this may have been a year ago, maybe now, whatever. But part of me was like, damn, all those times that I complained or bitched that it was rigged, maybe it was.
Seriously.
How
Oh
many
my
times on a Sunday
God.
night can't fall asleep, pissed, this shit's fucking rigged.
Yeah.
You know what? You think it's hard? It is hard enough. You're never gonna win in the long run with sports betting being on the up and up. Try winning when it's not.
Yeah. And okay, so that was, I had this written down. There's someone out there who bet the over
Oh,
for Rozier
oh,
on that night. And, maybe it wasn't for a ton of money, but there's multiple people who bet the over on Terry Rozier that night. And a couple years later, they realized that they were cheated. Their money was stolen.
yeah. I yeah, I think the really hard part now is like you've kind of like it's like anything, like it's like anything in life with relationships. Like if you're the NBA, um now that you've kind of crossed this threshold of it's not just role players, it's not a rogue ref that was they somehow dodged that bullet and nothing else came up for 15 years, 20 years. This is a head coach who's I believe a Hall of Famer. If not, he's damn close to being one. He's a legendary NBA player. He's an active head coach, a player, like I said, on a max deal. This isn't role players anymore. This is dudes who are influencing, you know, team results on a night to night basis. And I think one of your questions that we had talked about earlier, you wanted to cover was, is it the tip of the iceberg or is this, a one off? I would say with almost certainty, and I've been wrong before, well documented, but like this is no doubt the tip of the iceberg. And I don't want to get into speculation and naming names, but this is there's almost no scenario where this is a one-off, right?
Yeah.
There's just not. These are just the names that have come out so far, maybe the most blatant ones. But you and I'm not going to name any speculated names, but you and I'm sure both heard of names in the last few days that are allegedly tied to this. And it's I don't know if you're the NBA, like, and also it happening on opening week. If it was the
Mm,
off season, probably a way to like
right.
now. If this is July or August baseball season, it actually might be an even more massive story because you're not up against football and things like that. But like, there's still ways you can do more damage control. it's like week 1 NBA opening night.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look how good Victor Wembanyama is. It's like, well, shit. No one's talking about that.
Yeah. And here's the really shitty part about it is that I kinda believe that not only are we not gonna be talking about this in, like, a week, but no one's gonna care, and I'm gonna tell you why. So,
Mm,
during my rabbit hole, I was watching Colin Cowherd, and he basically was like, "Listen, in 1993, there was a big scandal with Michael Jordan gambling, the NBA survived. Tim Donaghy, the NBA survived." Like, no one's saying the NBA isn't gonna survive. Like, what I'm trying to say is that this isn't an isolated incident. This is actively happening, and it is the product of what we have been trying to say this whole time is that gambling addiction is a real thing. It's a real storm that's coming, and it affects everyone. It affects doctors, lawyers, salesmen, it affects athletes, it affects everybody. You know what I mean? And like
especially
you
salesmen.
know, if the nearest prevalence study, if the latest prevalence study says that estimated, 5 to 10% of the country would land on the spectrum of being a problem gambler or worse.
Right.
So that means there's a few people in these four leagues, if
No,
not a
no
lot of
doubt.
people,
If
that
not
have
more.
that, that
Well,
have that.
given the demographic representation that you mentioned, like it over indexes. So it's
Right.
almost certainly more than that percentage. And
And
also like weird analogy, but and this doesn't make sense at all, but like we're at a point now in society where it's like, yeah, there are gay athletes who play pro sports and no one cares about that.
right.
But that was like, people were clutching their pearls and surprised by that. Of course, there's gay athletes in professional sports, and it's not a big deal, and it shouldn't be a surprise. It doesn't matter. And like in the same token, again, very different. I'm not comparing, being gay to having a compulsion, but it's just I'm just saying like this shouldn't be a surprise. It would be more of a surprise if there weren't people with gambling issues playing professional sports, especially the environments they're in, the team planes. We can talk about Gilbert Arenas and the guns and the cards on planes. Like this shit is part of the culture. Not only is it
Right.
be, not only is it inherently in that demographic and it's gonna likely be there as part of the population and how it indexes. It's also it's perpetuated by who's playing in the leagues and the lifestyles they live and what they're just around on a day to day basis. It seems like so.
And
It's almost
speaking
like
of and speaking
duh.
of yeah, and speaking of the athletes who gamble, so on NBA it's not on TNT anymore, it's, the Inside the NBA,
Is Pan, yeah. Mhm.
Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith had a quick little debate. Basically, it was Charles Barkley was just saying that these guys are stupid, and Kenny Smith, to his credit, actually said that, like, "No, these guys have a gambling addiction. Because why else would you make these illogical decisions?" And Charles Barkley was like, "These guys are making $29 million a year, like, what do they care about 50,000?" And Kenny's like, "You're making my point." Exactly,
It's what we just talked about.
right?
They're in tremendously deep shit that's really scary.
Mhm.
So,
And,
both bad.
I'm not he openly said he likes to gamble, I mean,
Who,
just
Chuck?
me yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
me being someone who gambled for 20 years and who's 3 years and almost 9 months into recovery, Chuck, you sound a little bit like you have a little guilty conscience or you're projecting a little bit because I did it,
yeah.
right? I
No, of
did it.
course.
And
Yeah, of course.
that's the thing about this conversation is that first thing we said off the top, like, I have sympathy for these guys because they they have a problem, right?
Yeah,
Like no one's just doing that just to do it. And here's the thing, if you do have a problem and you're a professional athlete, you're telling me that you wouldn't to get yourself out of a jam if your personal prop that night, if you're a hockey player and your personal prop is a half of an assist for the game. You're
yeah.
telling me you're not gonna play a shitty game if you spread out 10 or 20 bets? And that's happening. It has to be happening.
Yeah, it's not like it's not happening in other leagues, I guess, right? I mean, again,
Sure.
we're making assumptions, but it's a numbers game.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
just
it's
where there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, where there's like this is not these guys are not the only ones ever. Now, to talk about the poker thing real quick, you
yeah.
know, I also I
You
saw a
live
lot of these first
you live that.
yeah, like I saw a
So,
lot of these firsthand. Like I dealt the Ivy Room at Aria where that was a private game, where it was an invite only game. And obviously, I dealt the cards and, that was all legit. But the first thing I will say about these games, and this isn't allegedly, I guess it's just my opinion, but when you say someone is like the salt of the earth?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I
So
overused the phrase. I'm familiar.
so
Yeah, yeah.
think of whatever the direct opposite of salt of the earth is, and
Scum
that's
of the
what's
scum
and
of the earth.
I
Yeah,
didn't say that, you did, but
yeah.
whatever the opposite of salt of the earth is what some of these high stakes poker players are. So it's like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
it's just there is no doubt in my mind that if there wasn't anything illegal going on, there was definitely like sketchy shit going on.
Yeah.
There was probably who knows what was going on. But like now, if you throw in the mafia, which by the way, it's that's the other like the fourth headline of this story is like the mafia is still around. I mean,
I'm trying to not bring it up. You brought it up a couple of times now. You're gonna get whacked, man. I just like you said like when you dropped a family name, I was like, that's
wait,
him.
did I
Not
say a
me.
family
I'm
name?
just
I didn't say a family name.
yeah. When we're talking about your boy Michael,
Oh yeah, yeah. He's a known guy. He's out of the game.
I'm just trying to. I'm just a special guest here. All right.
Oh man, you are a special guest. But
But no, but real quick though, did you like? I know you weren't involved in anything, obviously, but was there ever a scenario where there was like a weird night where you were like, this feels off and somebody told you to do something? Or like, was there ever like a scenario that you would be comfortable speaking about that felt not kosher?
yeah, so I would say in my time there, the craziest things that I saw that I was just like, whoa, like stuff that was like would never happen on a regular table. So not necessarily anything that was illegal, but like, like they would rabbit hunt, meaning like if someone folded on the turn but they wanted to see the river, like I would have to show them the river, like no questions asked. Where like you're really not supposed to do that on the other tables, but some
Yeah.
dealers do. But definitely there would be like, money thrown around, as far as like, I don't know if anyone ever took money off the table, but like, you know, there were some nights where like, and I guess this isn't really, these are bad examples, but like, let's say there were 6 people at the game and like 3 out of the 6 were playing, like there were 2 guys there funding the whole table, basically. So like you'd have 2 players that the other 4 players in the game were playing with those 2 players' money. Like they were staking themselves in their own game, right? So like just like weird shit like that. But as far as just like, the whole poker thing, obviously Chauncey Billups like had no choice but to do that, right? Or he was playing in the game himself. Who knows? It was
He wasn't like, yeah, let's do a rigged game.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
but it's just this speaks to, like I said, the opposite of the salt of the earth. It's like these people who play in these high stakes games, like they're
Right.
they're all gamblers, right?
Right.
And they'll just like they're everything that like is wrong with like forget about like the world or society, like humanity. Like
Yeah.
what kind of human being wants to get some fish to come in and then you cheat him?
Yeah.
You're all in on it? Like who
I mean,
like
the sad thing too, though, and I want to walk back what I said a little bit. I just, I got excited about answering your opposite of the salt of the earth question and knowing the answer. But like, those people are sick too,
yeah, they're all
right?
sociopaths. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying they're sick. Like no, I'm saying they may have the same disease that you and I have. Like if they're
Sure,
the ones,
sure.
so like I'm trying to I'm trying to. It's okay to cast judgment on some of this, but I'm also trying to have empathy, even for the people who are the worst of the worst as far as characters in this story. But like, I saw something interesting that I may butcher the exact wording. I saw like a tweet from a NFL reporter for some reason. She was commenting on this, but she goes, talk to an NBA executive just to get their thoughts on the situation. Or it may have even been an NFL. Yeah, this makes more sense. It was an NFL reporter, I believe it was Josina Anderson. And she was saying, I texted an NFL executive to get their thoughts on the situation as it pertains to the NFL. And her response was that he said Chauncey Billups is one of the greatest people I've ever known. He's going to be just fine. And
Yeah.
my first reaction was kind of like, that's an odd thing to say. Like this dude's clearly like, but then I was like, you know what? Like in a much different scale, like I've been in his shoes, and I would hope somebody would have that much faith in me that even though I fucked up and have a disease and made a mistake, that I can be okay. Like,
Mm.
who are we to dismiss Chauncey Billups and say that he's, scum of the earth and should be dead to us forever? Like, he gets a chance to redeem himself too, right? I
Wait,
mean,
yes, but when I say the scum of the earth, I meant the poker players
no,
and the
I
people running
understand.
the
I,
game.
I I
Yeah,
I was just
yeah.
saying it's easy to talk about everybody in this story and group them together as like these people are all like bad people. It's easy to cast Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups as bad people based on what they're being, accused of. But I think like my first glance at that was like that's a weird like reaction. Like this dude did something horrible, and I was like, you know what? That might be the right reaction. And he might be a Chauncey Billups might be an unbelievable guy who is really fucking sick and made some terrible mistakes and got caught up, and now it's time to see if he can have his redemption story. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, no, like I said, like, I feel bad for the players involved. I think that they were preyed upon by the you know what guys,
Yeah.
and I think they were just they were put in spots where they had no choice to do what they did. Now, my last question to you is when it comes to, like, the word addiction and the word compulsive gambler, and you have to fucking scour the internet to find any type of reel or TikTok right now where people are saying that, right? If anything, all I see right now is like memes like making fun of them. Like, I can't tell
Right.
you how many times today I heard the fucking Kenny Rogers song The Gambler, right? Like, it's not funny. Like, people, of course, whatever, it's the internet, people are going to fucking shit on everybody, but like,
Right.
is this is this gonna move the needle at all, you think? Is there Adam Silver the other day, I know we've name dropped like every fucking media outlet in the world, but Adam Silver the other day was on Pat McAfee, and he's like, "We need to look at this, like, there might be some need for more, like, regulation."
Need to look at this, like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what do you think? Is
I
is
don't
is it
I don't think I don't think Adam Silver survives this. That's complete speculation.
Mm,
I don't see how he does. I mean, I'll answer your question the best I can. I think we are in a culture where we're able to move on from things very quickly. And as much as people love to react in the moment, they also forget very quickly and want the next exciting thing. That being said, I think we're at kind of like a inflection point, I guess is the term, where the NBA is going to exist, right? We
mm,
kind of joked earlier, like the NBA is not going to cease to exist. The NBA is going to exist. Those broadcast deals are not going away. The sports books that help fund those broadcast deals are not going away. You're not going to you're going to still be able to bet on the NBA. Maybe they'll scale back the prop bets a little bit. There'll be things that are done that are window dressing, but the NBA is going to have to decide. Maybe it's not their decision, but the NBA is going to have to figure out where on the spectrum of legitimate sports league and pro wrestling are you, right? And they're going to sit somewhere in the middle of that spectrum, and it may end up just leaning more towards pro wrestling, and we all are just kind of like rolling our eyes at the NBA until it gets to be the finals, and we know that's maybe like that's where it's legit. There's no more rigging, but there's just like this uncontrollable kind of dark behind the scenes of basketball in particular for some reason, and probably other leagues, but for right now it's the NBA because we know the most about them. Um, but they're gonna have to
yeah,
figure out how to exist in the middle, somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. I don't know what that looks like, but um, so as far as the needle moving, I think perception is gonna we're gonna have to see how people perceive that. Like, are people still gonna be like, I checked the Celtics score a couple nights ago, and I was like, "Oh, they lost. That sucks." But like, I wasn't like fucking rigged league. Like, it's still not top like the first thing I think of, right? And it's
right,
because allegations haven't touched the Celtics or the Knicks who they were playing yet in that case, right? So
right,
if and when that changes, maybe I'll feel differently. But as of right now, it's like it still feels isolated, even though we know it's not. So it's
yeah,
gonna be the NBA has swept it under the rug before, allegedly. Are they gonna go, do everything in their power to do that again? Are they gonna make Adam Silver a sacrificial lamb and make an example out of Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups, and then everyone will believe like, okay, now this is above board. Somebody else is in charge, and those guys are gone. Even though the reality is, you can't just clean it up like ta-da like that. I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. So here's what I think. I think that here's the thing about gamblers, because once again, I am one, I was one, and I know how we think. The most crooked, fucked up thing could happen gamblers are still gonna gamble, okay? Like, we're not gonna take our money and walk away because we don't trust this. No,
Yeah.
we're just gonna
Right.
find something else to bet, right? So, I'm telling you right now, though, if things stay the way they are with all of the leagues being in bed with the operators and the players just being like players get harassed for parlays,
Oh
like
yeah.
DM'd and
Right.
once in a while, things are gonna fall through the cracks. Like, maybe it's gonna get to the point where, like, I maybe if the Super Bowl, right? Maybe if a bunch of people bet the Super Bowl and that ends up being fixed, maybe that might change something, but, like, 19 whatever it was, the Black Sox, when they rigged the World Series, like, baseball was fucked for a couple years, and then they got past it, but guess what? Gambling was
That was
more
also
than
that was the fucking 1910s. Yeah.
exactly. Gambling
Yeah.
was
Right.
more than
Yeah.
taboo then. So, like, if
Right.
something like that happened on a scale like that in a championship game and millions and billions of dollars were wagered and it proved to be like because guess what? That is where this is headed. This isn't just gonna stop. If things stay the way they are, players aren't just gonna be like, all right, well, I'm scared because he got banned for life. No, once
Right.
they play 5 or 6 years and they have some money, if they go on some bad times, they're gonna do what they have to do. They're human beings.
You also you just said it though. You just hit the nail on the head. Like when does this change and when does the needle move? It's when football gets involved. Nobody
Yeah,
really cares until football's involved.
it's so true. It's so
And I
true.
think and there's been and really the NFL. I love my college football, but there's been college football is so broad and there's so many, especially now it's such a fractured world and there's so many dollars in play that are kind of it's the wild, wild west with NIL and everything. Like there's been a couple of stories about I think a few programs. I'm not going to name anything because it's all alleged, but like college football has this underbelly of like obviously like kids who have been paid to lose games or lose a prop bet. Those allegations are out there like they were for Terry Rozier. Um, you're not going to see that narrative during the college football playoff or during the national championship.
Right.
It's not there. The NBA is different. It's one cohesive league. When this touches the NFL, and we have proof this happened in the NFL, that is when things are going to change.
And
Super Bowl or
football
not.
yeah, and
Super Bowl or not. Yeah.
football's probably the easiest sport to fix too.
Yeah.
You get a receiver that, owes a bookie a lot of money, drop a couple of 4th, 3rd down conversions, like,
Right.
you know?
It doesn't have
Sorry.
to be the star quarterback. It
Right,
could be a lot of different players. Yeah.
right. So just to recap, just so everyone knows where we stand on this, um, we feel bad for Chauncey and Rozier, and it's very highly likely that they have a problem, and it's okay to say that, everybody, right? They
Yeah.
may be compulsive gamblers. They may have an unhealthy relationship with gambling, and
No,
they
they
got
do.
put in shitty spots.
They do
Number
for
number
sure. Yeah.
2, um, you know, the leagues, it all comes down to greed. Like the leagues 4 years ago, no gambling, no gambling, and now they have, live betting on the TV screen 24/7. Like, and that's the thing. I think the operators end up like coming out of here scot-free
I completely agree.
because it's like the operators, it's not like the operators are putting the
Oh,
ad
no,
on the
no,
screen of the
they're
game
the
without their
ones
permission.
they're the ones catching and regulating it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they actually have more at stake by like, sports gambling, being this vehicle that makes these pro sports leagues, makes the integrity of these leagues called into question is ultimately probably worse for the operators that the leagues are going to exist in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
Um, but the operators will get hurt by it the most because they'll scale back what you can do so like
Exactly.
they want to report it and make sure things are above board. The leagues are actually more likely to push it under the rug, which
Yeah.
is kind of a weird dynamic. But
Yeah, and I think that's the last takeaway is that literally this is gonna be like any other, like, news cycle type thing, and nothing's gonna happen, and people are gonna get hush money, and people like some dark, dark shit's gonna happen here where, like,
it's
this is
happening
all
right
just
now, probably, right?
oh, yeah, totally,
Like,
totally.
can you imagine the conversations that Adam Silver's been having?
Oh my god. Yeah.
What has his last week been like?
And there's a bunch of players right now, once again, this is speculation, but there's a bunch of people that play in these leagues and work in these leagues right now that their buttholes are fucking they're just
Oh,
hoping that they don't get caught off
no
of stuff
doubt.
that they've all done,
Right.
you
And
know?
it's not just you see the sloppy there's like the 2 Terry Rozier highlights that everyone shows. Like it's not just that. There's stuff
No.
like missing a free throw, just You're an
Yeah.
NBA player. Back rim a free throw. That
Yeah.
highlight's not playing anywhere.
Right.
Shit like
Yeah.
that. It's like a movie. It's a movie plot, man. I mean,
Totally.
that's a cliche, but like this is like a movie. I mean, there was literally an Adam Sandler movie that was about this.
Yeah. And just for the people in the back, this is what we've been saying since November 11th. Gambling is a thing. It's a problem. It's
Yeah.
something that we need to look at as a society, as a fucking world. Like, we can't just, the states will figure it out. We need more.
Well,
We need federal
here's my
funding.
here's my question to you.
Yeah.
Is there any scenario where this is able to be controlled at any level? As long as pro sports exist and operators exist and human beings exist, which all three of those things are going to continue to exist in some form or fashion, is there any way to control this?
No. There's no
That's
way
the
to
answer.
control it. We can only I mean, I think there's a way
You can
to.
only hope to you can't stop them. You can only hope to contain them. That's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
That's
like,
what it
there's
is.
gonna be 1 or 2 bad, not bad, but there's gonna be 1 or 2 people that find themselves in the spot that these guys did. When it comes to gambling as a whole, like, I do think that, like, as the years go on and people lose and, 401ks are emptied, combined with education and preventative stuff and podcasts like this and YouTube channel, I do have hope that, like, we may not be able to save the people that have already crossed that line, but I think we can save people from crossing that line, right? But when it comes to the sports leagues and stuff, they have created this monster. They have absolutely created this monster. And yeah, I don't think there's any way to stop it completely, but you know, I mean, you gotta, I mean, I guess if you have like a zero tolerance policy and you're banned for life, like, maybe that's going to get most people to not
That's why
chance it.
I think it falls on the leagues more than the operators should be
Oh
allowed
yeah,
to operate. And like it's
totally.
again, I think legalized sports gambling here, for maybe the first time in one of our conversations, like was actually a really good thing that led to this being identified and caught. And then from there, the league has been the bad actor, right? Like
Absolutely.
the operators, like I said early on in this conversation, they flagged it first. They were like, we don't want this. This is not a regular amount of money on Terry Rozier,
Yeah.
fucking under prop bets.
Yep.
And we're taking these off the board. And the NBA didn't do anything about it until the FBI got involved.
Yeah.
So I don't, that's where it's like, this is on the leagues.
Yeah. All right. I love it. Just so you know, you are now the official modern meeting, field correspondent. So
This
as
is
these,
honestly, this is great. I just want to say, sorry to cut you off, but just like,
no,
I mean, from the time I was a little kid, I wanted to be the guy who popped on SportsCenter to talk about
listen,
breaking news.
as
This
these
is
stories develop, we will
yeah,
have Alex back on to
right.
discuss.
I feel like Brian Windhorst. I'll give Brian Windhorst credit. He works for ESPN.
Yeah.
He was not holding anything back. He was going after the league. He was
Yeah.
airing out every detail that it seemed like he had.
Yeah.
He's probably gonna get killed, but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Hopefully not
yeah.
literally.
I shouldn't joke about that, but
No. Yeah.
anyway, thanks for having me on.
No, this was great.
Keep
Hopefully we don't
keep
do it again, but I feel like I'm going to be calling you again soon.
I do I like the being able to I think we've talked before about like is there a way to incorporate like current events I guess into the podcast, and
Yeah.
there's aren't many that cross over. This crosses over. It's like the mom meter is what I call it.
Mm.
When your parents are texting you about
Oh
it. My
yeah.
buddy sent me and another friend a hilarious screenshot of a group text. He was like, just so you know, guys, like my mom knew all along. And it was just her texting him like, I knew it was rigged. Like it's like what every parent or mom has
Right.
said, like, like I knew that stuff was rigged. Come on.
That's really funny.
Um, that's when it crosses over. When the
Yep,
parents are talking about it in the group text, that's when this has become
for sure.
bigger than just a little sports story. So
All right. Appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you
all right,
soon.
man. Thanks for having me. All
All
right.
right. Take care.
Peace.
Oh.